Welcome to another edition of How I Would Book It, WCW 1998. This is the last Nitro of February. This is the night after Super Brawl. And this is, I believe, actually the first time I'm kicking off Nitro with a match. And the match that we're kicking it off with is Diamond Dallas Page versus Juventud Guerrera. Of course, the show kicked off with the normal opening of Tony, Mike, and Bobby welcoming you to the broadcast and hyping up the main event, which is Sting versus Davey Boy Smith, I believe. See, most people would probably question why I made that the main event, but I will explain later on in the show. For this match, during this match, Raven and the Flock make their way to their seats in the front row of the crowd, and DDP does not get distracted, but the camera does catch Raven and the rest of the Flock, which is Perry Saturn, Hammer, Lodi, Kidman, and Riggs make their way to ringside to watch the match, and like they have every week since Raven actually debuted in WCW. But what happens next shouldn't be that shocking. First, Riggs and Lodi hop the railing, jump in the ring, attack. Hammer and Perry jump right in right after. Now it's 4-on-1. And Raven walks in right behind them to join the party. The 4-on-1 disadvantage hurts Page, and Page finally succumbs to the 4-on-1 disadvantage. After being beaten down and his lifeless body laid prone in the ring, the rest of the Flock members pick him up, set him up for Raven. Raven drops him with the DDT, the even flow. Raven picks him up. Raven picks up a mic, rather. Hey, it was my first mistake. Raven picks up a mic and says something like this. Page, you say I'm not a man. You say that because I don't live up to your certain standing, and because I failed your test, that I'm not on the same level as you. Well, Paige, you gotta realize I'm on my own level. I don't come in the ring when somebody tells me to. I follow my own rules. That's why you want me in the ring. You gotta beat my Flock. You gotta beat them before you get to me. And when you do, and if you do get to me, Paige, I'm taking that title away from you, and it's coming with me. Because I deserve that title. And when I beat you, I will be the champion. Because there's all this adulation for you. And if you can hear it, Paige, if you're conscious enough to hear it, it's all boos for me. What about me? What about Raven? When me and you finally get in this ring one-on-one, it will be about Raven. Because I'll be the one leaving with that title. Quote the Raven, nevermore. Hey, I'm working on my Raven promos, but what are you gonna do? This was actually a poor placement for this match because Perry was just in the ring with the Flock, but Perry was supposed to compete later on tonight against Dean Malenko in a match, and Dean came out victorious. Yes, I know Dean has been infrequently seen, but also, mind you, it's only the end of the second month of this season, or this installment of the How I Would Book It, which I will get to, which I will also mention that again later on at the end of the show. But this match was, you haven't seen either one of them compete really, so this show was basically about the pay-per-view, post-pay-per-view, but also getting certain people on the show who haven't been featured on the show. Now we move to the next segment. Gene Okerlund is in the ring, and he's going to introduce his guests at this time. And his guests at this time are the reigning WCW Tag Team Champions, Scott Steiner, and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And Gene asks Ted, the Steiners come out, Ted comes out. Gene asks Ted, how does it feel to know that they sent packing the Faces of Fear, and who could their next challengers be? Well, Gene, I told you before that the Faces of Fear got lucky once, and at Super Brawl, my boys, we're gonna prove that the Faces of Fear got lucky. They did exactly that. They proved that the Faces of Fear got lucky at Starrcade and beat them at Super Brawl in a dog collar match. As for who the next challengers are for the Steiners, anybody who's willing to step up can challenge my boys because they are fighting champions. And they proved it. And will continue to prove why they're not only fighting champions, but the best tag team in WCW. That leads to these guys coming out. Stevie Ray and Booker T. And it leads to this in-ring segment, which I thought was going to get a little better, but I guess Stevie Ray isn't as good as I thought he was on the mic. Booker T held his own, which, will result in a future for Booker T, but not as much a future for Stevie Ray. And Rick Steiner shows why 9 out of 10 times in his career he's had a manager. But this is setting up, this is basically the Harlem Heat coming out saying that last week on Nitro when they faced, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't really remember, but when they faced Faces of Fear in the number one contender match, they were screwed out of the title shot because of Jimmy Hart. So they went to the WCW Championship Committee and voiced their opinion, and the WCW Championship Committee agreed and made this would be let me rephrase that and say it in first person. This would be Booker T talking. We went to the WCW Championship Committee and they agreed that we were screwed out of the title shot, so they're giving us the opportunity to redeem ourselves. All we have to do is beat you. They said all we have to do is pin you 1, 2, 3 in a non-title match, and if we do that, we get our title shot. We looked at them and told them that we deserve a title shot without having to be. We deserve to be given a title shot because we were robbed. But they said we had to earn it. So next week on Nitro, we will get in the ring with you two and show why we belong on top of the WCW Tag Team Division and why it's your time to start going down and move off the top of the mountain. Scott Steiner says, "Bring it on, bring it on." Now we move to the prototypical match for the show, which is Goldberg's streak match. And you remember, if you watched WCW during the Attitude Era, or more particularly the Monday Night Wars, then you would know Goldberg's streak match was actually a part of Nitro, because he competed every single week around the same time in the streak match, the match where he won and continued his streak. Also, if you watch WCW during the Monday Night Wars, you would know there's a historical meaning, I guess you could say, between this match. If not, then maybe I'll explain in another video, or you just look up Steven Regal, William Regal shoot, or, well, before I go on, let me just explain it quick. Back in the Monday Night Wars, Steven Regal competed against Goldberg, and Steven Regal went off script and made Goldberg earn his win instead of having Goldberg have another squash like he had for the last 5 months, 6 months before that. And management didn't take too hard on that. So, yeah. That in real life, Steven Regal's last match in WCW before moving on to WWE was against Goldberg. And I can tell you that that's not going to be the case here. So, yeah. Now we move to the next segment with an angry Bret Hart coming down to the ring. And Bret Hart proceeds to call out Curt Hennig after Curt Hennig has been a thorn in Bret Hart's side since the go-home show last week on Nitro, when Curt Hennig attacked Bret Hart following Bret's match with Buff Bagwell. So he calls out Curt Hennig, basically, somewhat of a, Kurt, you were man enough to attack me from behind. Now let's see if you're man enough to come out and face me come face to face with me. Something like that. But before he can get too deep into his promo, he's interrupted by the NWO music and ravishing Rick Rude. Bret Hart, before Rick Rude can talk, Bret Hart says, "Look, Rick, I respect you and what you've done for this business, but you're not who I want. You're not who I'm looking for. Where's your client? Where's your buddy? Where's Curt Hennig? Get him out here, 'cause I want a piece of his ass." He wants to say, "I'm not the best there is, best there was, and the best there ever will be, and then I have to prove myself." He says that I have to prove myself against him. How about he shows that he has a pair, that he's a man, and how about he comes out and lets me prove why I'm still the best? You know what, Bret? You had the opportunity to join up with the NWO. You had the opportunity to have all of this and more, and be the best, and have all that success carry over. But you chose to start over. You chose to not join the NWO because you chose these people. You made your bed, and now you have to lie in it. Curt Hennig comes up from behind Bret Hart, but Bret Hart sees it coming and sidesteps out of the way. And he starts feasting on Curt Hennig. He goes for the sharpshooter on Hennig, but Rick Rude runs down to the ring, jumps on the apron, and Rick Rude distracts Bret Hart long enough for Curt Hennig to squirm out of the ring, and keeping Bret Hart an inch away from getting his revenge on Curt Hennig. But the tension is there. The tension exists between Hennig and Bret, and the tension is real. But when will Bret Hart get his revenge on Curt Hennig? Now we move to the next match, which is Rey Mysterio Jr. defending his newly won Cruiserweight Championship against Prince Hayakea tonight on right now. And in a solid match for the Cruiserweights, because in this game it's based on popularity. In WCW it's exclusively based on popularity as it pertains to this game and how the matches are rated. And, you know, as you could probably assume, sorry I zoomed out a little too far, as you could probably assume, as you saw for the quick second, a 40 is average. Which is what you expect from Cruiserweights. So, yeah, Rey defended the title pretty good. Now we move on to the next segment, the Nitro, on Nitro, not the Nitro. On Nitro, the Giant makes his way to the ring following his, public appearance last night. He's back, and his promo is something like this. Last night, I didn't compete at Super Brawl because I had to make an appearance and see all those kids smile. I saw more kids with smiles on their face because they saw me. Because I know who I am. That made my day. Excuse me. Once again, sorry, but like I said in my last video, that's probably not the first person. I'm not probably the first person you've heard sneeze in the middle of a video. But whatever. If I have, thank you. Drop a. If I'm the first person you've heard sneeze in a video, drop a comment in the comment section below. The Giant would continue to say that, but now it's back to business, and now I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines. Sting is free, the world champion is free, and I am declaring the fact that I'm the Giant, and it's about time I start acting like it. I'm gonna make WCW my own personal playground. And when I get my hands on the world title, it will be around my waist for as long as I want it to be. That brings out, that actually brings out Mike Awesome. And excuse me, and Mike Awesome says something like this: I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna keep it short. Fact of the matter is, you want to say that you are going to be the biggest and the best in WCW. The fact that you're gonna say that you're gonna keep that world title when you win it for as long as you want. Little do you know, you're never gonna get the world title because you're gonna have to go through me to get it. And I came to WCW to destroy people just like you. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. But not right now. You won't succeed when I'm around, with me around. Now we move to the next segment. Of course, I would probably insert a commercial break following that segment with the Giant and Mike Awesome, and we come back to Randy Savage against one of the men who interfered in his match against Hogan last night, Scott Norton. And Randy defeats Scott Norton to get a little bit of revenge on one of the members of the New World Order that interfered in his match last night. Now we move to everybody makes mistakes. I made two with the positioning of segments. This should not have been right after Randy's match, and you'll see why in a second. But Kevin Nash, who's actually, I guess you could say, being affected by the in this game, talent on your roster can be affected by drug use if they use drugs during this period. And I'll probably talk about that in another video. If you want me to go a little further in depth in this game, with certain things, let me know in the comment section below, because there's a little more to this game than I've showed in previous videos, because I really have not had any intention of showing it. But if you guys want to see it, let me know in the comment section below. But what Kevin Nash would say in this promo is basically, I would let Kevin probably talk from the heart. Being honest, I know I say that way too much about way too many people on the roster, but this promo is going to be about the fact that Scott Hall got fired. It's Kevin Nash's best friend. If he can't speak from the heart about his best friend getting fired by his boss, his former friend, because Eric and Kevin in storyline used to be friends, as Kevin and Scott left the NWO. But if he can't speak from the heart about his friend, then he shouldn't be in wrestling. Because if you can't speak from the heart about somebody you have an emotional attachment to, then normal people can even speak about that. Come on. But Eric and Hulk are not in the building tonight, so Eric and Hulk can't come out and address Kevin face to face. But now you're gonna see why this was poorly positioned on the show. Because think about who just had the last match, Macho Man. Macho Man now has a segment where he comes right back out to the ring about 7 minutes after his match. So go figure why I didn't just push back these segments. What basically look, okay, this fits in because I've said anytime Mach cuts a promo, it's never scripted. I let Macho Man because he's a detail-oriented wrestler. I know from hearing from his brother, from watching interviews about his brother, anybody who knew Macho Man knew he was detail-oriented. So I would let him write out his promo. I would let him sit with Kevin Nash and write out this promo. This segment would basically be about Randy and Kevin talking about last night when Kevin saved Randy from the NWO, and Randy not saying thank you, and instead being pissed off at Kevin for helping him because he's Macho Man. And the fact that he doesn't like getting help and he doesn't believe he needed it. So, yeah. But now we move to the main event, I believe, which is Sting versus Davey Boy, which honestly I thought was going to get a little better, but as you can tell, it got a 60. Let's see if I can... It got a 60. Which, I mean, for the main event, that's shit. I needed at least a mid-70, and this show's going to crap out again. I mean, I guess I should have known better, because certain people in this game are not as good as they should be because of certain outside circumstances, and Davey Boy is one of them, and I actually think Sting might be one of them too, but I'm not sure. But yeah, this show crapped out because of Sting, because of the main event, and because of who I chose to put in it. Holy shit. Holy shit, that's the worst show I've ever done. That is the worst show I've ever done. As you can see in the bottom left, the final rating is a 58. That is the worst show I've ever done. I mean, the segments sort of lived up to expectations and, you know, helped the show a little bit, but didn't help the show enough. I mean, I guess I should have had Hulk Hogan on the show, but I didn't. But whatever. Fact of the matter is, earlier in the show I mentioned that I had something to say about this installment of How I Would Book It. Well, what I have to say is, if you don't read the site, WrestlingExpress.net, if you don't read the site, shameless plug, then you wouldn't have noticed that I did a post earlier this week. Actually, no, at this point, probably late last week, about the future of the How I Would Book It, this installment of the How I Would Book It, where I basically say that due to certain circumstances of me lacking ideas for segments, feuds for certain people, like people that you haven't seen, like The Giant, like, well, at this point, Sting. Okay. Sorry, dinner time. Sorry, dinner time. But, sorry, it threw me off. Yeah, just one little thing, and that is, I know most people would say, you're gonna cut it. You know what? You're gonna learn. I don't really care. If it's not a mistake, if it's not a mistake, then I'm not gonna cut it. Because I have nothing to hide and nothing to gain from hiding. Eventually everything will come out. Later this week, you'll find out a little bit more about me with a series that I'm starting up. Okay, a little more information in the next video, which is going to be a little more detail oriented. But I'm rambling with this video, so I'm going to cut it here and continue this ramble in the next video, which will be probably up sometime next week. So, once again, if you enjoyed the show, you're probably one of the few people that actually did. But if you did, let me know what you thought of the show in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel for more unique content just like this that you can only find right here on Wrestling Express. Till next time, thanks.